Good morning, good afternoon or good evening, whatever time you're doing this practice. Make sure you have hold of either dressing gown belt, or if you've got a yoga strap, then grab one of those. Just have it at the side of the mat. Then bring yourself to a seated position in the centre of your mat facing the long edge. Take a cross of the legs. If this isn't comfortable, let the legs come out straight. If you need to go up against a wall or a sofa, just to support that back, feel free to find your happy place. Bring the hands onto the top of the thighs, take a close of the eyes, take a roll of the shoulders up towards the ears and then relax them back down towards the hips. With the eyes closed, take a scan of the body from the top of the head down to the fingertips, the toe tips. Just check in with how your body's arrived on the mat for this practice of mindful movement. Just checking in with any tight spots, checking in with any injuries. Maybe your hips feel tight, maybe your shoulders feel tight. Hopefully at the end of this practice, everything will feel a little more stretched, a little bit more accessible. So with the eyes closed, take the chin into the chest and stretch through the back of the neck. And just feel that stretch happening all the way from the base of the the base of the neck, all the way down in between those shoulder blades. And then keeping that chin tucked, start to bring your right ear towards your right shoulder, just rolling across to stretch that left side of the neck. So the head is still slightly bowed. And don't let that right shoulder creep up to the ear, let that relax and just take the ear to the shoulder. Then coming back through centre, take it over to the other side. Left ear to left shoulder, but keep the left shoulder relaxed. Bring that head back to centre, still keeping those eyes closed. Keep that head tucked in towards the chest just for another breath. And then lift the head, lift the gaze. Stretch through the front of the neck. Maybe still with those eyes closed, it allows you to connect more internally. Bring the head back to centre, stacking on top of the spine, and then turning the gaze towards your left. Shoulders stay facing forward. We're taking that rotation on the axis of the cervical spine. Bring it back through centre, take it to the opposite direction, turning and facing the right side. And then bring the head back to centre, keeping the head stacked. Drop your left ear towards the left shoulder without the right shoulder lifting or the left shoulder lifting. But the chin this time is up high, not tucked into the chest. And then take it the opposite way. Bring it back to the middle, maybe opening the eyes here. Bringing your right hand onto the left knee, the left hand behind, and find a little rotation from the waist. Those sit bones stay grounded, pelvis stays neutral. Because we're sitting on the sit bones, it doesn't allow that pelvis to turn, which allows us to use a little more rotation. When the hips aren't stabilised, quite often the hips move with you. The shoulders just come along for the journey. You're encouraging your left shoulder back and your right shoulder around as I'm mirror imaging you on the actual video. And then bring yourself back through centre, take it to the opposite side. So left hand onto right knee, right hand behind. Keep both knees being drawn down to the mat. Maybe your legs are straight and you're just holding on to the outside of the thigh. Bring it back to centre and then taking your left hand to the floor, reaching up with your right hand and leaning over to the left side mat, stretching down that right side body. That right sit bone keeps pushing into the floor. So again, the pelvis stays neutral and all the movements coming through the waist and above. Come back to centre, opposite side, lifting up with your left hand and reaching over to the right side. Keep pushing that your left sit bone into the mat. Keeping the chest open to the front of the room. One more breath in this space, and then open back up. Bring that hand back to the floor. So stretching out with your right leg, keeping your left leg tucked and into the groin. Toes of the right foot back towards the shins. So bringing your right hand to the inner thigh of that right leg. Reach up with your left hand and start to lean over towards that right leg. Maybe bringing that right forearm all the way to the floor on the inner side of the leg. Or maybe you want to grab the toes or hold on to the shins or the ankles. Just so long as you feel that stretch down the back of the left side body. Keeping that left knee open and out in external rotation. Keep the chest open, maybe the gaze towards that upper hand. Then bringing yourself back up, turn your shoulders now towards the right foot and start to walk the hands towards that right foot, bringing the chest towards the right thigh. Keep active through the toes, keep active through the upper thigh by pushing that knee into the mat. Keep active through that left knee by pushing it towards the floor. Breathe into the spaces, create length through the spine on your inhale, create the depth on your exhale. Walking the hands back up towards you. Bringing then that right foot back in and sending your left foot out. So toes of the left foot up towards the ceiling, as is the knee. And that right foot's coming into the groin. Bring your left hand to the inner left thigh. Reach up with your right arm and then send that right hand over towards the left side of the room. Maybe bringing that left forearm onto the mat on the inner left thigh, or bringing that left hand towards the foot of the left. Keeping the chest open, maybe gazing up to the right hand. Trying to encourage that right knee down to the floor as much as you can. Feeling the stretch down that right side body. Breathing easy into these spaces. Then bringing that body back up. Turning the shoulders towards that left foot. And then start to walk the hands towards the left foot, bringing the chest towards the left thigh. Try and track the shoulders as much as you can to that left side and use the breath. Maybe you feel a stretch down that right outside of the hip and into that waist and into that lower back. Keep breathing easy here. Keep elongating on the inhale and flexing on the exhale. Coming back up with the torso. And then straighten out both legs, sending them wide as you can to the outside edges of the mat. Making sure the flesh removes from under the sit bones so you're not rolling in that lower spine. Bring the hands forward, toes back to the shins. And on your out breath, start to walk the hands forward towards that long edge of the mat. Just bringing the torso down as low as you can. You will start to feel a stretch on those inner thighs. Maybe you're still quite high, so long as you can feel the stretch down the back chain and the internal thigh muscles, you know you're doing whatever your body allows you to do. So push the chest forward, push the sit bones back, allow yourself to pivot from the hips to bring that chest as low as you can find it. Maybe you come even lower than what I do. Some people can flatten all the way to the floor. That's definitely not accessible to me. I'm just working with my personal range of movement, which may be more or less than yours. We all have different shapes, different bodies, different alignments, different hip sockets. So we're never ever going to look the same in one pose. On your breath in, walk the hands back to center and then take them over towards your right foot. Breathe in, elongate, breathe out and fold towards that right foot. Walking the hands down towards it. Feeling that stretch down that left side body. Keeping that left sit bone pushing into the mat. If you need to encourage it back, push it in with the hand and lengthen through the torso. Maybe you want to hold that hip down if it's lifting. Then bring that torso back up. Walk the hands over now to your left foot. This time your right sit bone stays grounded and you start to fold towards that left leg. Maybe you push that hip of the right into the floor and that sit bone stays grounded. When you found that sensation, allow the body to fold over the legs. Keep active through the toes, keep active through the upper thighs to push the knees into the mat. Then making your way back up with the torso, turning the chest into the centre, and then walking the hands back forward just for one more forward fold with a wide leg. Facing forward, lifting and pushing the chest forward. Try not to roll too much in the back. Maybe you've come a little lower in this centre point, having gone from left to right sides. And then walk the hands back to centre and bring the feet back into the middle and take a bend into both knees. So bringing the hands out by the sides of the body, knees together, chest lifts and pushes up, and keeping the chest facing forward, let your knees drop over to the left side, keeping the ankles and the knees stacked and the chest facing forward. Finding some rotation from the waist again. So the hips are turning now. That right sit bone's lifted away from the mat and we're turning the hips to the left side of the room. Soften through the elbows as you're pushing the hands into the floor to lift the chest. Come back to centre and then take it to the opposite direction. Knees over to your right. Both sit bones, left one we're rolling on to, the right hip we're rolling onto, and the left sit bone we're lifting away from the mat. Chest is still facing forward, pushing into the hands and expanding through that chest as those knees have dropped to the right side. And then come back to centre. Bring the hands to the creases of the knees and just bring yourself onto toe tips and find that balancing point in between the sit bones and the lower spine. Bringing up your left foot to knee high, bringing up your right foot to knee high, and hold yourself in chair for a couple of, in boat pose for a couple of breaths. Squeeze the shoulders down, lift up through the chest, breathe easy. Try not to hold your breath as things get a little more challenging. Maybe you release one hand, maybe you release the other, but still lifting through that chest, pointing through the toes, then bringing the toes back to the shins and taking it into dorsiflexion. Going into plantar flexion, pointing through the toes, back to dorsiflexion. Remember, you can still be holding onto the knees here. Point through the toes one more time. Back with the toes for the last time. And then release the feet to the floor. Cross the legs. Bring yourself on to all four position. Knees under the hips, heel of the hands under the shoulders. Tops of the feet flat. Reaching out with your right hand. Reaching back with your left foot. Take a lift of that left leg, then bend into that left knee. Bring your right hand behind. Maybe you can find a grab of that ankle with the right hand on the left foot. And then maybe take a little back bend, lifting the chest, lifting the left knee, lifting the gaze, rolling that right shoulder back. If you haven't quite reached, you can just bring the hand back forward and keep a bend into that left knee, working those hamstrings on the left side. If you're in a back bend, push the foot into the right hand and resist with the right hand back into the left foot. One more breath here. And then release that left knee down, your right hand down. Take a little rock of the hips from side to side. And then we'll take it on the other side. So weight comes into your right hand, reach your left hand forward, your right toes back. Take a bend into that right knee and bring your left hand behind to grab a hold of the ankle of the right foot. Again, keep the left hand forward if you can't reach, but just keep a bend into that right knee. If you've managed to grab, push the right foot into the left hand. Resist with the left hand and bring that push back into the right foot. Expanding through the chest, taking a back bend, lifting the gaze, lifting the right knee up a little higher. One more breath here. And then release back out, left hand back to the floor, right knee back to the floor, and take a little rock of the hips from side to side. So your weight is into your left knee, and I want you to bring your right knee up and out to the side, cocking it up as though you're lifting that right hip into external rotation. Try and keep the pelvis as neutral as you can, and use the outside of that right hip to lift that knee. We're going to go in and out of dropping the knee to the left and lifting back up. So on your out breath, bring the right knee back to meet the left. On your in breath, raise that knee back up. Two more, drop the knee to the left. In breath, lift back up. One more, drop the knee. And lift back up. Hold it in lift just for a breath. Then bring that right knee back to meet the left. Put your weight into your right knee, and this time lift your left knee out to the side. Weight into both hands. Hold it there for a couple of breaths, using the outside of that left hip to lift that left leg. And then release that left knee towards the right. Breath in, lifts back up. Two more. Drop that knee to the right. And lift back up. And one more, drop the knee to the right, and then lift that knee back up. Hold it in that extension, and then release that left knee back to meet the right. Widen the knees as much as possible, bring the big toes together, bring the seat towards the feet, reach the hands forward, let the forehead drop to the mat. Then threading your left hand underneath the right armpit, bringing your chest back over that upper left arm, forehead back to the mat. Turn the left palm up to the ceiling, and then bring your right hand behind the back, taking a hold and a bind of that left thigh if you can reach. Then push into that left forearm and lift that right shoulder. So we're turning the chest towards the right side of the room. Opening up, using that left forearm as an anchor to push into the floor. One more breath here. And then reach back out with that right hand. Bring your left hand to meet the right and take it on the other side. So bringing your right hand underneath your left armpit, bring the forehead back to the mat. Just feel that stretch through the shoulder first. And then bring that left hand behind the back, taking a hold of the right thigh if it reaches. Then push into that right forearm, lift that left shoulder, turn the gaze to the left. Use that right forearm as the anchor, those sit bones going back to the heels. Feeling a little rotation through the waist, it won't be very deep, but you're trying to encourage that left shoulder a little higher. Then reaching back out with that left hand, bring your right hand back to meet the left. Take a moment in central child's pose. And then lifting the hips up away from the heels, bring the knees underneath the hips. Step back to a plank position. And then find your down dog, lifting the hips, squeezing the heels back, maybe walking the feet in a little further to try and encourage the heels a little closer. So feet should be hip width apart, hands should be shoulder width apart. You could be choice to paddle the feet here or go straight into that stretch of the hamstrings, the calves and Achilles. Create some space across the collarbones as you hold your down dog for a few breaths. Trying to lift as high as you can with the hips, but try not to flare the ribs, pushing the chest back towards the thighs. Widen the fingers to get good support through those hands. On your next breath in, come forward to a plank position. Drop down with your right knee, take your right foot off the mat, roll onto your right side as you lift the left hand up. As you reach up with the left hand, push down with the right hand, find that support for the shoulder, and then raise that left leg up to hip height. Push strong, away with the left heel and back with the left toes. Full stretch down that left leg. Then reach forward with the left hand, turning the palm down. Feel the long stretch up through the torso and up to the fingertips. And then take a bend into that left knee. Bringing the foot towards the bum cheek. Bring that left hand behind to maybe take a hold of that ankle. And draw that left foot in a little closer. Maybe push yourself into a bit of a back bend, and then push the left foot into the left hand and resist with that hand, feeling like you're drawing it back towards that bum. So that right foot is our stabilizer. It's turned out to help us stay stable in this pose. One more breath here. And then straighten back out with that left leg. Reach the left hand back up towards the ceiling. Hold it there for a breath. And then bring your left hand down, left knee down. Take a little rock of the hips from side to side. And then we're going to bring ourselves back to down dog. Stepping back into plank first. And then lifting the hips back to down dog second. Maybe just bringing the feet a little further in to try and bring those heels a little closer. Holding in down dog, widening the fingers, widening the toes. Toes are in front of the heels to hide the heels from your view. Those middle fingers are pointing forward and the fingers are nice and wide for a good support. Relax the neck, relax the jaw and the forehead. And then come back through to a plank and drop down with your left knee. Turn your left foot off the mat. Come onto your left side and reach your right hand up to the ceiling. Find that stability first, so that left foot is our stabilizer. And then lift your right leg up to hip height, holding it in a long line, pushing the heel away and the toes back towards the shins. Then reach forward with that right hand, palm facing down. Feel that stretch up through the torso and up to the fingertips of the right hand. Then take a bend into the right knee, bringing the foot towards the bum. Bring your right hand behind to take a hold of that ankle. Bring that foot into the bum to stretch through the front right thigh. Push the hips forward. And then maybe take it into a back bend, pushing the right foot into the right hand and resisting. Feeling that stability from that left leg as it's turned out. Feeling the space across the front of the chest, in towards the belly. Stretching down that right hip flexor. And then release that foot, straighten back out with the right leg. Lift the right hand back up to the ceiling. One more breath here. Then bring that right hand down, right knee down, and take a little rock of the hips from side to side. And step yourself back into a plank position and lift the hips to your down dog. Keeping the feet where they are this time, we're going to take a little vinyasa, bringing the knees to the floor. So forward to plank. Keep the shoulders over the heel of the hands as you drop the knees and tuck the toes. Turn the creases of the elbows as you release down to the floor. Push into the hands and find a back bend, maybe baby cobra or higher. Release the chest back down, tuck under with the toes. Bring the chest back towards the thighs. Then push into the hands, push into the feet. Lift up the hips, squeeze the heels back. Finding your down dog for a couple of breaths, good alignment. Toes in front of the heels, Feet hip width apart, widen the fingers, push into those hands. Try not to flare the ribs and push the chest back. Relax the head and the neck. Next breath in, come forward to plank. Drop the knees for a moment. Bring your right forearm to the floor, then turn the right hand into the centre of the mat. Step both feet back into a side plank. So now we have both feet stacked one on top of the other. The hips away from the floor, the knee away from the floor. If you feel stable enough with the right hand, reach the left hand up to the ceiling. So we're finding side plank on the forearm, holding it here for a few breaths, keeping the hips in a nice long line. If you need to bring your left foot in front just to give a little more support, feel free, or keep it stacked. Just holding it here for another 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Bring your left hand back down, roll back onto the toes. Bring your right hand up, find full plank. Then lift up the hips and squeeze the heels back, finding down dog. Then we'll take a little vinyasa, come forward to plank on the inhale. Drop down the knees, untuck the toes, turn the creases of the elbows and release to the mat. Push into the hands, lift up the chest, take a back bend. Release the chest back down, tuck under with the toes, chest comes back to the thighs. Push into the hands and feet, lift up with the hips as you squeeze the heels back. Again, relax the head, maybe give it a nod and a shake. Before we take that same pose on your left side. So bring yourself forward to a plank position. Drop down onto your left forearm this time, shoulder over the elbow. Turn the left hand in. Roll onto your left side and stack the feet. At the moment, the right hand's down for support. And then if you feel you can lift that right hand to the ceiling, creating a nice long line. Shoulders stacking, hips stacking, feet stacking. If you want to bring that right foot slightly forward, just to give a little more support, or keep the right hand down. Holding inside forearm plank for another 5, 4, 3, push the hips forward, 2, and 1. Bring your right hand down, come back on to the toes, lift up onto the left hand, and then lift the hips back to down dog. Have a little paddle, nod and shake of the head. Then bring those heels to stillness, and let's take a little vinyasa, forward to plank. Drop down with the knees, untuck the toes, turn the creases of the elbows, release the body to the floor. Push into the hands, maybe you come a little higher with your back bend. Release the chest back down, tuck under with the toes, bring the chest back towards the thighs. Pushing into the hands, pushing into the feet, lifting up with the hips, and a squeeze of the heels back. Coming down onto the knees, bringing your right foot through in between the hands. Left knee stays grounded, take a hold of your strap. Widen the hands along the strap to give some space for the shoulders. Hips push forward, but don't drop in the hips. Shoulders still stack over. On your in-breath, lift the arms up to above the head. On your out-breath, drop the hands down and the strap towards the bum. Breath in, raise that strap back up to the ceiling. Breath out, strap back to the thigh. 2 more both directions. Breath in, raise the strap. Breath out, lower to the bum. Breath in, raise up. Breath out and lower. 1 more both directions. Breath in, lift. Breath out and lower. Breath in and lift. Breath out and lower. Okay, bringing your right hand up, bring your left hand behind the back. Maybe try and bring those hands and straps towards each other. So working your left hand up the strap, your right hand down the strap, maybe to find fingertips. If not, just hold on to the strap, keep squeezing the left bum cheek to push those hips forward. Feel like you're drawing that right elbow back beyond the eye gaze. One more breath here. And then release that strap. Bring that strap down to the floor. Step both feet back into a plank position. And lift up with the hips. Squeeze those heels back. Take a little vinyasa of your choice, forward to plank on the inhale. Maybe this time you don't drop the knees and you just lower the body all the way to the floor. Untuck the toes, pushing into the hands and lifting up with the chest. Releasing the chest back down, tucking under with the toes. Chest comes back towards the thighs. Push into the hands, push into the feet. Lift up with the hips to squeeze the heels back. Coming back to the knees. This time your left foot steps through. Take a hold of the strap and widen that strap as much as you can. Widen the arms over that strap as much as you can to give space for the shoulders. Push the hips forward, and on the in-breath, lift the hands up to the ceiling. Out-breath, bring those hands back towards the bum. Breath in, raise and lift. Breath out, lower the strap towards the thigh. Breath in, lift. Breath out and lower. Breath in, lift. Breath out and lower. One more both directions. Breath in, lift. Breath out, lower. Breath in, lift. Breath out and lower. Have your left hand go up to the ceiling. Bring your right hand to grab the strap. Maybe walk the hands up towards each other. Pulling down with the right hand to lift that left elbow. Walking the hands together, maybe find fingertips. Keep squeezing that right bum cheek. Shoulders stay stacked over the hips. Feeling the stretch down that left tricep muscle on the upper arm. So the elbow of the left comes back beyond the eye gaze. Find the stability from the floor by pushing the left foot into the mat, top of the back foot into the floor. Holding just for one more breath. Then release that strap, place it at the side. Bring both hands down either side of the left foot. Step yourself back into a plank position. Then lift up the hips to down dog. Finding down dog, pushing the chest back, relaxing the head. Then take a vinyasa through of your choice, forward to plank on the inhale. Either dropping the knees or just coming down with straight bodies, but don't let the middle of the body sink. Untuck the toes, push into the hands and lift up with the chest. Then release the chest back down, tuck back under with the toes. Bring the chest back to the thighs. Push into the hands and feet, lift up with the hips, and a squeeze of the heels back. Coming down onto the knees, bring your right knee to the heel of the right hand. Bring your left toes to the back of the mat. Untuck the left toes, take a hold of the right foot and turn it underneath the body, your range of movement. Bring your left hand back to the floor and rock your left hip bone towards the right foot. So you can stay here upon the hands or come onto forearms. If you want to get a little stretch more through that left thigh, bring your left foot in towards the bum. Maybe take a hold of that left foot with the right hand, turning your right shoulder out, and then pull that left foot in towards you. Feel the support of the left hand into the mat. Feel the stretch of that left thigh. Holding in a form of pigeon pose with a little more stretch on that left leg. You don't have to have that left leg lifted if you want to go into your normal pigeon onto the forearms. One more breath here. Then bringing that right hand back to the floor, bring your left foot back to the mat if it's lifted, tuck the toes under, lift up the left knee, step your right foot back to meet the left, and find your way back into down dog. Let's take a vinyasa here, forward to plank on the inhale, either dropping the knees or straight bodies all the way to the floor, elbows grazing the ribs, untuck the toes, lift up with the chest, then release the chest back down, tuck under with the toes, bring the chest back to the thighs, pushing into the hands and feet, lifting up with the hips to squeeze the heels back, into our down dog, just for a breath. And then take a bend back into both knees. Bring your left knee to the heel of the left hand. Take your right toes back a little further and untuck. Take your left foot underneath the body by the right hand. And then rock that right hip bone towards that left sole of the foot. So your choice can be to stay here in your pigeon pose, either up on the hands or down on the forearms. If you want to get a more stretch in the front right thigh, take a bend into the right knee, and then bring your left hand behind to grab a hold of the ankle of the right foot. Keep the chest facing forward, squeeze that right foot in towards you, maybe point through the toes or flex the toes, wherever you wish to go with for that. Breathe into the spaces. If you're just down on forearms, just breathe into the hip flexor on the right side, and the piriformis muscle on the left hip on the outside of the hip, the rotator muscle. Sinking those hips as low as you can go. Just holding it in this version of pigeon just for another breath. And then release that right foot back to the floor. Tuck the toes under, bring your left hand back to the front of the mat, lift your right knee, step your left foot back to meet the right. Take a little paddle through the feet and a nod and shake of the head. And then find a vinyasa of your choice, coming forward to plank, choice to drop the knees if you wish and untuck the toes. Release down to the floor, either straight bodies or not. Push into the hands, lift up with the chest. Release the chest back down. Tuck under with the toes. Chest comes back to the thighs. Then push into the hands, push into the feet. Lift up with the hips to squeeze the heels back. So coming back forward to a plank position, lower your body to the floor, either dropping the knees or straight bodies. And then just turn yourself onto your right side, bringing your right hand underneath your right temple. Stack the feet, stack the hips. Have a nice long line from the crown of the head all the way to the ankle of the left foot. So pushing the hips forward. Without letting the hips drop back, I want you to raise and lower the left leg. So lift the left leg up. Keep the hips pushing forward, heel pushing away, and on your out breath, lower back to the floor. You should be feeling it on the outside of that left hip. Lift that left leg and lower back down. Keep that left hand as a stabilizer. Lift that left leg and lower. 3 more this side to make it 6. Lift and lower. 2 more, lift. Try not to let the hips drop back, so you're working the outside of that left glute, and lower. 1 more, lift and lower. Come back onto the belly, both hands by the side of the chest, tuck the toes under, bring the chest back towards the thighs. Push into the hands, push into the feet, lift up with the hips and squeeze of the heels back. So your next breath in, we're going to come back forward to a plank. Choice to lower straight body or drop the knees. When you get to the floor, roll onto your left side. Bring your left hand underneath the left temple. Stack everything so the hips are pushing forward. Heels are stacked, knees are stacked, hips are stacked. Shoulders are stacked, right hand your support. By pushing those hips forward, you keep the muscle engagement in the outside of that right leg. And on the in-breath, raise that right leg up as high as you can go without the hips dropping back. On the out-breath, lower. 5 more. In-breath, lift. Out-breath, lower. Toes pointing to the right side of the room. In-breath, lift and not to the ceiling. Out-breath, lower. 3 more to make it 6. Lift. And lower. 2 more. Lift. And lower. Last one. Lift. And lower. And then roll back onto your belly. Bring the hands by the side of the chest. Tuck the toes under. Chest comes back towards the thighs. Then push into the hands and the feet. Lift up the hips. Squeeze of the heels back. Have a little paddle of the feet. A nod and a shake of the head. Then on your in-breath, come forward to plank. Drop down the knees, untuck the toes, turn the creases of the elbows and lower all the way to the floor. Push into the hands, lift up the chest. We're going to hold it in a back bend. Squeeze the shoulders back. Then take a bend into your right leg, bringing your right foot in towards you. Hold it there for the count of 5, 4, pushing the hips into the mat, squeezing the bum cheek, protect the lower back. 2 and 1. Release the right foot back to the mat. Squeeze the left foot into the bum and hold it there for 5, 4, protect the lower back, push the hips forward. 2 and 1. Release that left foot back. Release the chest back to the floor. Tuck under with the toes. Chest comes back to the thighs. Push into the hands, push into the feet, lift up with the hips and squeeze of the heels back. Start to walk the hands back towards your feet, bending the knees as much as you need to. Bringing the hands to the floor, let go of the head, take a nod and a shake. Then we're just going to take chair position for a couple of breaths. Feet hip width apart, bend into the knees. Bring the hands to the chest and lift the chest away from the thighs. Keeping the hips low, feather-like touch through the heels. Feather-like touch through the toes, weight in the heels. Tuck your bum under, lift your lower belly up. Lift up a little more through the chest. Keep those hips sunken. 1 more breath here. And then fold back from the hips. Bring the hands to the floor, maybe straighten the legs. Maybe the hands only come to the shins. Take a forward fold over those thighs. And then start to walk the hands back into a plank. Drop down with the knees, untuck of the toes. Release the chest back to the floor. On your in-breath, lift the chest. On your out-breath, release the chest back to the mat. Tuck under with the toes. Chest comes back to the thighs. Push into the hands and feet. Lift up with the hips and squeeze of the heels back. Make your way into a seated position, bringing the feet forward or swinging the legs around. Bums into the centre, feet to the front. Arms out, shoulder high. And then slowly bring that torso all the way to the mat with as much control as you can take. And as the shoulders release to the floor, bring the hands down by the sides of the body. Turn the palms up. Let the feet come out to mat width apart and then drop out to the sides. Maybe push into the feet, lift the bum, tuck the tailbone down. Maybe have a little rock of those hips from side to side. Take a turn of the head in one direction. Bring it back through centre, over to the other side. Bring it back to the middle. Close the eyes, soften the jaw, the tongue, the forehead. Let those shoulders come down and away from the ears to create some space around the neck. Just find your natural automatic breathing pattern. Just noticing the weight of the body being supported by the earth. Being aware of any colours or shapes behind the back of the eyelids. Being aware of the smells of the room, the taste on the tongue, the temperature inside of the room you're practicing. Just witnessing your body, witnessing your senses. As you lay here, consolidating everything you've just done through the last 45 minutes of practice. Noticing the rise and fall of the breath. Being aware of any spaces you feel you're holding tension in. Just feel if you can let that tension release. If you want to start bringing a little movement back into the fingers and the toes, or if you want to stay here for a little longer, just pause the video now. Starting to bring some movement back into the wrists, into the ankles. Maybe taking a full body stretch up and over the head, stretching through the fingertips, the toes, arching into the lower back. Then bringing the hands back up and over, bringing the knees into the chest, maybe just having a little rock of the body from side to side, massaging that spine, thanking it for practice. And then rolling over onto your side, just making a pillow with the hand, and just take a moment here. Breathe nice and easy in through the nose and sigh everything out through the mouth. Then pushing into that top hand, lifting up with the torso, keeping the eyes gently closed as you bring yourself back to a seated position, either cross-legged or the legs out in front. Bring the hands on top of the thighs, bow the head slightly, and on your in-breath, raise the hands up to the ceiling, palms together at the top. On your out-breath, bring the hands to the chest, soft gaze to the floor. Have peace in your thoughts, your words, your hearts, from my heart to yours. Namaste.